So what do you guys think I'm always trying to do here? Like, when I try to explain to you why to do the steps, like, do you see how I try to... Jody, please. So here's the thing. Drug addiction or alcoholism are traits. Where do you think they are fed from? Where do you think that they come from? Where do you think the justification, the rationalization, all the reasons that we say and do what we think, what part of our psyche do you think feeds that?
You talking about the part that we deceive ourselves?
Well, I'm talking about the ego. Okay?
Survival brain?
Well, no, we're going to talk about the ego. We're going to talk about the ego. I want to explain to you why the ego, how the ego is trying to kill you. It's your ego that's trying to kill you. Do you understand that? Your ego says I, right? Why do you think, and when you do the steps, every step should be lessening and lessening of your ego and building more and more humility. Like from step one, it's all about I. I cannot control myself. I cannot do this. I will never keep myself sober. I need help. Thank you. So all the way up to step 12. What's step 12? No, not the exact thing, but what's step 7? Just break it down. Service, right?
Practice your, well, yeah,
Yes.
practice these principles all here.
Well, that's not that. Yeah, yes. But so it goes from this whole entire thing is to go from what about me to what about me? Okay. So I want to explain. Who in here? And let's be honest. One of your character defects is procrastination. I think if we're all being honest, it's all ours. But there's always a couple that are not me. No. I know. No, I'm glad that you said that. So where do you think the procrastination comes from?
My wife.
Being lazy.
Being lazy? What did you say?
My wife.
So
That's not.
it's okay, but wouldn't it come from fear, right? Like we're sitting there and we don't want to move because
We're comfortable.
we're comfortable, but we're like, doesn't it come? Let's all just pretend like we're supposed to how about this? We're supposed to decorate the house for Christmas, right? And I know that can be a fun job, but it can also be like,
How about clean the house?
all right, fine. Clean the house after the holidays, right?
Yeah.
After the holidays, clean the house. And you sit there and be like, in our fear, you make it 10 times worse than it really is, right? Don't we? Because is it ever as bad as we think it is? Once we get up and do it, we're like, why did I sit? You know what I'm saying? So, the procrastination, go ahead.
I need to clean my garage, but I'm putting it on.
I'm gonna use that one day, like way down the road, whenever you forgot about it, and be like, remind, I gotta clean my garage.
So, I'm just trying to show you. So, listen. When I tell you this is a disease that is rooted in low self-esteem and fear, does anybody have any quabbles with that? So now, in our addiction, how many people in our addiction remember being in that mood where everybody is an idiot? Everybody's an idiot. This is like bullshit. That's bullshit. We can complain about anything, right? That's our ego, right? That's our ego, like saying that we're superior and this and this is that. But we make ourselves feel better because where is our self-esteem?
Non-existent.
Non-existent or very low. You know what I mean? It's very low. So our ego compensates. Our ego says, you only live once, you know what I mean? Like, your ego says, well, no, for real. Your ego says, it won't happen to me. Your ego says, well, I'm going to be dead, so I might as well live this way or that way or this way.
While you know it's happening to you.
Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to explain to you how much in addiction, in addiction, alcoholism, same thing. You understand what I'm saying? Same thing. So if I say one thing and I don't say the other, don't think that they have anything to do. Drug addiction and alcoholism, it's all the same. Your ego, like I said, your ego says, I deserve. Sense of entitlement too, but your ego says, I'm entitled. I deserve. Your ego points out how everybody's a fucking idiot, and that way, because your ego tries to separate you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because we always think of ego as in a guy or a woman with a big ego is all the way up here. What else does your ego say?
You're a piece of shit.
I'm the biggest piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you understand what I mean? So,
Bittersweetness.
It's easier to point the finger than it is to look in the mirror.
yes, yes.
Yeah, but he's saying that also it's like if you're depressed, like for me, I struggle with that a lot, and
Sorry.
some of that
Sorry.
is just like, huh?
No, I kicked her.
Some of that is just like biological, like just has to do with like chemicals out of balance, out of whack in my brain, but it also has to do with like it's ego in reverse. It's like because it's still all about me.
Yes.
Whether I'm the best, I'm the biggest piece of shit, or I'm the shit, in a good sense.
Do you see what he's saying? And that's true, it's all ego. Like, your ego can live way up here, or it can live way down here. Your ego separates. Like, drug addiction or alcoholism is a disease of separation. We can walk into a room, like I say all the time, we walk into a room, our self-esteem and our fear, I'm just talking about me, make me feel inferior and lower than everybody in here, but my ego will somehow convince me that you're an idiot, you're an idiot, you're an idiot, you're an idiot.
Well, it's almost
And,
like you have to be whether on either side of
And
that
none of
spectrum.
these are-
On either side of that spectrum, it almost feels like you have to be somewhat just basically out of touch with reality. It's like ego minus reality equals delusion.
Yeah.
Something like that.
No, well, and that's, yeah, like, that's what I'm getting at, because, see, so if the first step, I mean, seriously, when I say to you, my step one, around 110 days, was when I realized that up to my own devices, I will kill myself. Like, I will kill myself, I will get high or drink every single time on some ridiculous reason, and then I start this whole thing over. Like, I remember thinking, I can't trust myself. I cannot, if I listen to, like, you know what I mean? Like, if I listen to my brain, I'm completely fucked. So that was my step one experience where I was like, oh wow, I actually really do need someone else's help. You understand what I'm saying?
So I think that's the hardest part for me, anyways. The
I
hardest
think,
part
I
of the
think
program
it is. I think it is.
is like like has been said previously. Like the steps don't give you a whole lot; it just takes a whole lot away. Like it's almost like we're built to deceive ourselves, and we have to like be so aware of that because if we're not, then we're just constantly deceiving ourselves.
That's what I'm trying to say to you. So if your self-esteem is shot, and we don't have much of a community of people that want the, like, if we're not very well connected with people with the right type of perspective, our egos will keep us right here. It'll keep us sick. Our egos make us procrastinate because your ego lives in fear. You know what I mean? Or your ego's the one that wants to get high and drink and chase men or women or gamble or do this or that, live for just a moment, and the whole time we're living just a moment because we're afraid we're going to die. It's this is a hard concept to try to really get to you, but I'm telling you, like, the ego is a very powerful thing, but it shouldn't be as powerful as it is. But for us, it's a very powerful thing because the self-esteem is out the window, and we're pretty much operating completely on ego because it's the only thing that really gets us out of bed in the morning. Like, so step 6 and 7, we talk about the character defects. Give me one of your character defects. Just one. No, for real. I mean, I'll even give you, like, go ahead. Trust? Well, that's not a character defect. Character defect would be jealousy, anger. Okay, like, so let's just talk about jealousy for a second. What do you think, where does that stem from? She has before, or you're afraid that she will?
I was afraid that she would, and then she did. But it came from my mom raised us. My dad was always on shore, and every time we leave, he was going to fuck somebody.
Your dad or, oh,
No, that's what she tells.
okay, okay,
So basically, from a young age, he's going to sleep with this.
yeah,
Doing that, he's going to always be constantly
yeah, in fear.
in fear of him
Yeah.
leaving instead of him cheating. And,
Yeah.
you know, so it-
So she projected her fears onto you, and then you guys were scared.
And then I just fucked that.
Well, a lot of the times,
Self-fulfilling prophecy, though.
go ahead, talk
Yeah.
about it. A lot of, well, here, go
Well,
ahead.
it's just like us in our addiction, like how you always say, like, the very things that we're afraid of, we basically guarantee by acting and treating people the way that we treat them. It's like we create the conditions for that to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that. So a lot of times I do a group where I have everybody write down their biggest fears. Yours may have been my wife cheating on me, right? You know, only because you brought it up, I'm gonna talk about it. Now, obviously, her doing that, she takes some of that blame, right? But I guarantee if we look at it from a very level perspective, a lot of times, this is the, I mean, let's think about this, like, I don't know about you, but I know with my drug addiction or alcoholism, I was cheating on, you know what I mean? Like, we have this thing that we make so important. We have this thing that we do this, like, our spouses or girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever, they really feel like we're cheating on them. And then half the time we are with another person too, but here we are, no, for real, but here we are with this thing. Could a woman or a man in a relationship with us completely feel cheated on and neglected even though,
Just from drug use?
Yes.
Just from our addiction?
yes,
Fuck yeah.
100%, right? Because here's this thing, let's be honest, maybe not, like, if I ask you what's more important, your alcohol or your wife, you'd probably say, my wife. But what do your actions say?
Your alcohol.
Me too, yes, yeah, because, you know, this is what, so, like I was saying before, I say, everybody here, like, what their biggest fear is. Every time I do this, nobody ever says, getting their Bentley repossessed. Nobody ever, no, I'm telling you, of all the times I've ever done, 98% of the time, it's, remember I told you guys the other day, those two major fears? Not getting what you want, losing what you already have. A lot of times it's people losing the connections or the loves they have with their families. My kids being done with me, my wife and kids being done with me, my husband leaving me. You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest, like that's our biggest fears, is losing what we already have. You know what I mean? And like, so the stuff that we fear the most, the stuff that we do this, we literally bring it right to our front door by living the way we live. Like, do you see how like ass backwards that is?
Well, one of the hardest things for me in the past to realize was, you know, whenever I did my resentments and, you know, let's say that my girl cheated on me, you know, like, obviously, like, that would, like, she takes the blame for that, but all I can do is worry about, like, okay, I'm pretty sure that there were some ways that I, in some way, shape, or form, contributed to that. Like, what, you know, it's cleaning up my side of the street. Like, I thought whenever I first came to my sponsor with my resentment list, he was gonna, like, like, absolve me of all these, you know, things. But he was like, no, what was your part in that? I was like, oh, fuck, I didn't know that's what you were doing.
Yeah. Well, because that. So, who in here, Kay, young
No.
lady, I'm not going to talk about your situation because
Oh,
it's
you
not.
can't.
No. Well, because it's not the same thing. Because I was going to say, who in here is most likely going to be in early recovery, going through a breakup or a divorce? But my situation, your situation is different. You've had enough, and you're moving on because you want better and you deserve it, right?
Exactly.
That's a wonderful thing. Me, that wasn't my case. Like, you know, I was with somebody for 21 years and really didn't have the best relationship. Never truly loved her like I love the girlfriend I'm with now. Anything like that. But regardless, when she finally put me out, guess what was hurt more than anything?
Your
Your
ego.
place to go.
My ego. My ego, my pride. I was so embarrassed in the beginning to talk about that. And somebody said one thing to me that made me look at it a little differently and made me realize. And he said, Mike, man, I'm sorry, man. He's like, you're just another guy going through a divorce. You know what I mean? And I started realizing how personal I was taking it. If I explain to you all the shit, I mean, I was begging to get out of that relationship by every action I ever did since we were together. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when she finally, after going through a treatment, you know what I mean? When she finally left me, I'm so good.
Yeah,
You know, yeah. But, you know, but like I said, it was more the ego, because even as I sit here now today, it wasn't what I lost, it was how was I look getting this taken from me. You understand? You know what I mean? Because like I said, like, good person, all that, all this, but it's like, the woman I have now, I'm much more in love with than I've ever been in love with her. You know what I mean? But it was like, so my ego says, you know, what would people say? Well, how do you look? Or I can't, you know, my ego says, don't you know who I think I am? Anybody ever get into that? And then I have to say, you're nobody, or you're just a regular, like I have to constantly check myself. 1 second, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing, raise my hand. Yeah, don't you?
Do like
don't
K-Nex,
you know,
just give me a
think that you know how I am, what I would say.
Well, I'm trying to explain to you with this whole thing how dangerous the ego is. How dangerous the ego is. The ego says stuff like, this is bullshit. I don't need this. I can do it on my own. I'll figure it out. Yes, Brady.
So, I guess to answer your question, the fear and the self-reflection, mine is like boundaries. I'll disrespect anybody's fucking boundary. Like if somebody came over to my house, like I remember my grandma, she brought me some like Bibles and stuff, and then just out of my
You did not yell at grandma for bringing you back.
out of my fucking sickness, I said, I'm Satanist. I can't believe you brought this over here. And my partner had to say, what the fuck? Like, just in the middle of it.
Yes.
So, like, and then my
Well,
fear.
let me real quick. Do you feel guilty for that?
Yeah, like,
Okay.
I remember talking to her on the phone just like a month ago saying, you know, and she goes, yeah, you were sick. We knew you were high.
Yeah.
And she goes, when you're ready to accept that, like, you're running from us and your God, then we can talk. And hung up. And, like, that was the realest connection that, like,
Yeah.
I talked about October 30th, getting on my knees before my dad's birthday. And then my fear is, and I'll say this 100% honestly, is actually a little bit opposite. I don't want people to get close to me because of being in an orphanage. I already have this abandonment issue, and then being brought in here, and then having some family saying we're gonna disown you. So already I have, my fear is don't get close to me. Like, don't love me because I can then again disconnect, but it's not true.
Yeah, because here's the thing with that, right? Those are our effed up defense mechanisms that keep us from having any good or healthy relationships. Because here's the real deal. If you have a good and healthy relationship and then something happens and it goes away, at least you had it for the time you had it for, and then you move on. We're so scared to death to go through some pain and look and be embarrassed or feel bad or what would be, you know what I'm saying? Like, we run from shit so much, and then the shit we're running from, we pull right down on our heads on purpose. I mean, not on purpose, on a subconscious.
No, for me, I would do it on
Yeah,
purpose.
go ahead.
Yeah, I believe like for me, I think ego definitely and pride is like the most dangerous thing to do.
And I like to say this, Will, I didn't mean to cut you off, it's ego, but it's false sense of pride. It's false sense of pride. Because especially as men, right, like, you know, like, I don't know, I come from a neighborhood like where, don't you look at somebody the wrong way, right? Because how dare you look at me? You know where that really comes from? We're in damage. We are damaged, and we are in pain, and we are hurting people. And if you look at me long enough, I think you might be noticing where my pain is, and I can't let you see that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to react.
That makes sense though, because like
Yeah.
I be defending some shit and I'm like completely in the wrong.
God, get over it.
I'm telling you, most of this comes from, you know, we're damaged, we're unhealthy, we're hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. But like I said, for us, we live in this thing where we are running from the pain our whole entire life. And let's be real, because although we ran a lot and we self-medicate a lot, we've all been through some stuff before. And going through it sucks. But usually, it winds up being a great growing learning experience that's the best thing for us. Because I tell you all the time, every single person in here has had a spiritual awakening before. Maybe not a spiritual experience, but a spiritual awakening. Because who in here was in a relationship with somebody, guys? Stop them first. So listen, how many of us have been in a relationship before where that person left and we were devastated, heartbroken, thought we'd never feel the same, be the same, do the same, right? And a few months goes by,
Screw.
and we're like, holy shit, that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yes.
Would you have been able to think like that the first couple of weeks that it happened?
No.
No, but by letting the pain and letting it process and dealing with it and moving on, and usually finding someone else, let's be real. You know what I'm saying? We get through it, but we're like, holy shit, did I dodge a bullet? Like,
I held on to mine for a long time just so that was my excuse to get high.
well, wow, good for you. Yes.
I did.
No. Yeah, well,
Good
because,
summer.
man, guys, I call it the get out of jail free card, right? When you hold on to that resentment and you use it to like justify anything,
Yep.
I mean, you can't tell you stuff. You can't
It
be
is.
told nothing.
Like saying, looking back in the now, saying it is stupid as fuck. 'Cause
Stupid.
just like you, every action from the day I got with that woman was not great.
Well, listen, that's when you really have to start looking and seeing how self-destructive I am. You know what I'm saying? How self-destructive I am that this is the, because listen, I'm gonna explain something to you guys, and this is that 9 out of every time, 9 out of 10 every time, good deal. Every single human being's got one in the planet, got one thing in common, and that's how we all go through pain. Different levels of pain, different levels of trauma. Every human being walking this earth goes through shit. How you deal with that pain, coping skills, you know what I'm saying, will determine how you deal with it for the rest of your life, how you deal with things for the rest of your life. Do you understand what I'm saying? Remember I was saying, like on Saturday about the group about how, like, growing up at the age of 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, going through the stuff I went through, is playing out at 35 or 40 years old. I'm not different than you guys. It's all the same stuff. It's all the same stuff. It's not until you recognize it, put it down on paper, see it, see how it's been messing you up. It's like this light bulb goes off. Like, what do you think the steps in the inventory are all that for? Why do you think you have to write down? Why do you think, what'd you say before, when you sit with the sponsor and they ask you what part you played in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, I thought you were on my side.
And they are on your side. They're trying to help you, but they're going to let you know real quick. Most of your troubles, young lady, young man, old man, are from your own making. Anybody hear that new Taylor Swift song?
What?
The what?
Fairy tale what song?
Taylor
Taylor
Swift.
Swift.
Oh, what Taylor Swift song?
She's got a new song, and in the song she drops some gems. She talks about undercover narcissism, dressed up as altruism.
Are you playing her new album?
Oh, I know. Yo, she talks about how, like, she can go out and she can go out under the sun all day long, but she can never look in the mirror. Like, and what she mean by looking in the mirror is like self-appraisal, looking at how, you know, and the whole chorus is, I see me, the problem is me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that shit is hard. Like, that is us. Like, we are our own problems. Our troubles are our own making. We're the one, I mean,
Her music has really turned to a I'm a piece of shit type of music. Like, but at the same sense, it's like, I remember listening to folklore.
all right, that's me. Come on. I'm just,
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah,
serious,
crazy
like,
now, I know.
it helps self-reflection at the same time.
oh, music can,
Hold on, she went from a whole, I can date all these guys,
Yeah.
to a real Taylor who's like,
well,
oh,
holy
piece of
shit, she
now.
grew up.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what I'm trying to get at.
that's us,
Mhm.
guys. You know, like I was saying before, like how you
Or
deal
this
with
guy.
how you deal with that trip, pain, and trauma will determine how the rest of your life goes. And how have we been dealing with our pain and trauma?
Dragon.
Run. Run. Because listen, running. We're running from it. Even if we're not physically running away from it.
I tried to create more problems so I didn't have to deal with the other problems.
Really?
Self-inflicted warpath.
You are a special kind of self-destructive.
Self-inflicted warpath. Man, I was was on a mission.
Sadistic fellow.
Sadistic fellow.
Like this summer, like when I had that idiot like break it up, and he didn't even break it off, he just ghosted me after 7 months. It was just like, what did I
like
do?
this style.
It-
No, I'm just kidding, that's terrible.
Was it? But it taught me the biggest lesson. Like I was like, holy crap, this is like for real how you deal with this shit. I'm like, never again. He
It's
taught me
coward.
the biggest
Coward.
lesson I could ever learn. Like this is how I deal with breakups like this. I'm like, never again am I ever gonna do this. Like allow this in my life, allow anything. And so you say that's how I'm gonna deal with my like any heartbreak in my life again? No. I'm not gonna let somebody have that power over me any longer. So
Yeah, well, you refuse to be a victim.
yeah, that was stupid. Like for me to react in that way over some stupid idiot guy, like no.
Yeah. And it's hard, and that's where, you know, you get your self-esteem where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you get your boundaries where you're supposed to be. Because anybody ever see an equalizer on a radio?
Yeah.
Right? Let's just pretend you got 7 buttons, right? Ours are 1, 6. 3 down here and 3 up here. Egomaniac with inferiority complex.
Yeah.
Low self-esteem and fear. That's how we are living our lives, and we need to bring. So, what do you place? So, if we're full of anxiety and full of fear and full of worry, and we're living these lifestyles where we're like pulling it down on ourselves, what do we need to replace the fear with as much as we can?
Love.
Love.
Yes, love's a great start. But
Openness.
faith. Faith. Yeah. Let's be real. Remember I was talking about in the last group on Saturday, how many of our fears are irrational?
Oh yeah.
Lots of them.
I'll make up.
I mean, and here's the thing, most of them, and they motivate us. Like, you don't realize how they motivate us in every action of everything, to the point where we will not clean the house after the holidays, or we will not go to the DMV on time, or we will not do the dentist because it hurts. We will not do this stuff because we fear, like we procrastinate, we do this, and here it is, it's like, it's completely dragging us down in so many different avenues and ways, and it's like, you have this faith that like, all right, man, whatever it's gonna be, it's gonna be, because here's why we live in so much fear. Someone please, why we shouldn't. Why do we live in so much fear?
Because we're running. We won't
My case is
face our
because I'm
problems.
constantly cutting my nose off to spite my face.
Well, yes and yes, and here's why we live in so much fear, because we think it's all up to us.
What do you mean by that?
We think it's all up to us. We think it's all revolves around, we think we're in,
Oh, like the whole
we're in
world's on-
control. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's why because we think we're in control. So when we finally realize that none of this is up to us, isn't that a little bit easier to let go?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Oh shit. Wow, it's not really up to me. It's not really up to me.
peers, our sponsor, and the higher power.
Yeah. Listen, there is a natural flow of things, whether you recognize it or not.
Yeah.
It's kind of just the way things are going. You know what I mean? It's like we sit there, and I say it all the time. Like, I know in my old lifestyle, I had 1 foot in the streets, 1 in a regular job, 1 doing this. Like I was juggling all that shit constantly. You know what I mean? Constantly maneuvering, ducking, and dodging, and weaving, and all this stuff. And it's like,
And then the juggernaut hit you on the ground.
well, it's just, it's like you can't keep up with all. It's so stressful. It's so much going on. It was like, I thought that I was moving this way, and I thought it was like all because of like, I don't know, like that I was in control of it somehow. And when I realized it really had nothing to do with me, like I'm sitting here, I'm standing here right now because of God's grace. Not because I was awesome. You know what I'm saying? Not because I knew how to maneuver, and not because duck and duck. No, I'm here because of God's grace. And that we all, like, God brought you to this place whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is the truth. You asked me before. You asked me at 5 years old, 15 years old, 20, might you believe in God? Yes, I do. But I didn't know anything. I didn't have a kid. I didn't know anything. God brought me to AA, and then guess where AA brought me to?
God.
Here.
God.
Oh, God, yeah.
It did. But God put me in places like this. I mean, it was like, no matter how hard I was trying to fuck everything up, I kept getting these chances to like fix the things. You know? Get my unhealthy thinking in ways. I mean, this thing right here, get all that anger out, get all them resentments, all that shit that's the unhealthy ways and patterns of thinking, get it on paper and see, when it says take inventory of the stock and save the things, you know, look at the things that are getting you somewhere in life and look at the things that are, you know what was dragging me down more than anything, and you guys too, but I'm just speaking on myself, my ego and my sense of entitlement. That was just you know, and getting back to what I was saying, like any decision made without God is destined to fail. If anybody know what ego stands for? Somebody knows.
Edging God out.
Easing God out, right? Because
Come on, not
the
out.
ego comes in and the
Easing
ego
God.
says, I got this, I know what I'm doing.
It's not out, it's on.
No,
Edging God
edging
out.
God out,
Thank
easing
you.
God out.
So I do need to go write something. Take me back to elementary school.
So, and then we do some other steps, we start looking at our character defects. The things that, you know, my jealousy, or my anger, or my procrastination, my whatever, all the shit that like, you know, and then I start apologizing to people. Well, I start making amends to people, right? Why is it such a good thing to make amends and start living the right way? What did I say before? Low self-esteem and fear? If you stop drinking and getting high, being a liar, cheating, thief, always getting over, always scheming, always plotting, always sneaking around, right? You stop doing that. You start doing good. Will you automatically not start feeling better about yourself?
For sure.
Won't happen overnight.
Just-
Some people it does. It didn't for me.
Just in the last couple of weeks. Remember?
Yeah.
Major.
Yeah.
You know.
Hold on. I got Tate and then you read. Tate.
I was talking to my mom today about that God thing actually, because my treatment I went to before, if God didn't send me here, I would not be sober today. That treatment center I went to before was hell. And God, I just got the urge, the sudden urge, because I was praying. And I pray, I do. And I was praying, I got the sudden urge to just call my mom and be like, get me out of here, send me to a better place. And I came here and I've got all the help I needed. And like all the help I've ever been looking for. And so like, you're not lying about that.
I'm not lying about anything.
It's true. And then about the amends, like, that was a big thing for me. I was talking to a guy that was in the AA meeting last night about it. And so I was like, I never cleaned house, didn't do shit back home. And now I'm like, I'm going to clean the fucking house when I get home. I'm going to cook. I'm going to do different things. And that's my way of making amends because I didn't do a fucking thing.
Hey, I'll be honest with you. Can I tell you a lot of amends that I had to make with my old boss and my ex-sister-in-laws and stuff? A lot of my amends had to come with like, I'm sorry. I'm just sorry I wasn't my best.
They don't want
You know
to
what
hear
I mean?
that shit.
Because my sister-in-laws were like laughing, kind of like, Michael, you've never done, you know what I mean? Like, we're good. And I'm like, yeah, but, you know, you deserve to have the best part of me, not the broken, sucking the life out of you, just being around me because I'm sick and I'm confused and I'm upset. Because my ego says I don't need no one. My ego says I got this. My ego says and I'm living on an island by myself. But my humility says, man, I need you. When I start operating out of fear and love, and when I look around and I know, why do you think I know for a fact the only thing that matters are relationships and human beings and loving each other and helping each other? Why do you think I know that for a fact?
Because you live the opposite way.
Well, but I feel it so strongly, it's undeniable. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I feel it so strong, I know. Like, the type of connections I have just with you guys. I get to know you guys for a very short time. But the type of connections I have with my future wife, or my nephews, or the people around. Like, when I know that this is what life is about, because I feel it's undeniably, like, it's there. It's there. To see somebody start doing these steps and start getting better and start, but on a very small microcosm of that, when I see you guys walk through the door and you're beat to shit and you can't even hold your head up, and just a few weeks later, got your color back in your face, got a little bit of sparkle in your eye, you're smiling differently, you're laughing a lot, it's like, here we are, healing. And unfortunately, you know what a lot of us do?
Yeah.
We go home because we think we're fine. And I'm not saying you can't go home, but I'm saying you have to continue this. You know what I mean? You have to continue. That's what the ego sneaks in. The ego says, all right, we're good. I'm fine. I remember when I was really fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we do. No, I'm telling you, man, it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle. And I'm just trying to explain to you guys, like, there is nothing better than the freedom, and there's nothing better than not having to carry this shit around with you anymore. Anybody in here know what it's like to call yourself a piece of shit 9,000 times a day? And listen, I'm just gonna say me and you are alike. If we call each other, if we call ourselves, not each other, a piece of shit 994 times a day, what does that not become after a while?
Reality in your mind.
A belief. That's a belief. And you can't even tell me different. I can explain to you all day long. Man, you're good. I can tell you all day long. And it don't matter what I tell him, because what is he telling himself?
The opposite.
The opposite. So, you clean house, you get some of this stuff done, you start doing the right thing, now you're walking through, let's just fast forward, right? Everybody, we're gonna fast forward 8 or 9 months. We're in the 8 or 9 step, whatever. I'm not saying you gotta do them 1 month at a time, I'm just saying for like the 9, 10 step, you know what I mean? Like you're doing this, it's 9 months, things are starting to get better, it's starting to be better. It's like, holy shit, this thing might work, You just, all of a sudden, it's like, life starts to make sense in a way that nobody here could possibly understand. I would have never been able to understand it when I was sitting in your seat. But here's the real deal I talk about. Like, I know what it's like to be sitting in your seat. I know how miserable it was. I promise you, I did all those steps and I did all this stuff and I never thought it was going to work. But even if there was a 10% chance, because let's be real, if we leave here and we don't do a thing, you know what's going to happen usually? You're going to stay sober as long as you can possibly stay sober until you drink again or get high, whatever. And then we're going to drink, because I'm telling you guys right now, that party is over. So then we're going to drink and get high for as long as we possibly can. We run out of money, we food everything up. You know what I mean? We got that war going on that we can't do this anymore. So then we're going to stop it. Right? We're going to come into a place like this or detox on the outside, or go to jail or whatever. We're going to stop. And we're going to do that over and over and over until you get your mind right and work the rest of the steps. But the funny thing is so we don't drink, we're miserable. We drink, we're miserable. Do you understand what I'm saying? Don't drink long enough to work the steps, and you could be a happy, free, better type of good than you've ever been in your whole life. Even if there was only a 10% chance of that being true. Don't you think we should try it? Yeah. But I'm here to tell you, and you can have Jody, Katie, and everybody else, it's 100% true. It is 100% true. That's what this thing figured out. Like I was saying, this way of life is not new. Like, just because AA was come around 1935 or 1939, whatever exactly it was, they didn't invent this. This is the way human beings should have been living there and talk. This is what every religious thing in the world basically says the same thing. You know what I mean? That's why I love this. Anybody in here familiar with refuge recovery? Okay, it's the Buddhist version of this. What I love about that, and I've read the book twice, what I love about that, only twice, so it talks so much about ego. It talks so much about how we take everything so personally, and it says that human beings are in pain, especially us, all the time. And do you know where that pain comes from?
And outside benefit.
Well, because they always want something. We're in pain because we always want something, because we're always looking for something. We're convinced if we get what we want, we'll be happy. And that's embedded in us so much that's why we can come into a place like this. And we get sober a couple of days or a couple of weeks. And all of a sudden, we start looking around, finding, remember how I asked you earlier? Everybody in here knows what it's like where everybody's an idiot. Everything around is fucked up. Because you're in pain and you don't even know how to express it. You know what I mean? That dis-ease of self kicks in. And all of a sudden we start looking, and you said it before, all of a sudden we start looking at everything because what don't we want to do?
Look at ourselves.
Listen, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be miserable. It's going to be off-putting sometimes. What was life like before we got in here? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we're looking at. What's the choices? Here's the thing. If you're in this room, party's over, you have one viable option. Whatever program you choose, I don't care what it is. I say go with this one because it's right here. I say go with AA because it's the most everywhere. Do you understand what I'm saying? But whatever. Do whatever you. Well, I don't care what path you take to good self-esteem and hope and healthy self-esteem and good coping skills. I don't care what path you take. You just need that. You need that to be happy. You know what I mean? You need that. Or else, we're just going to be doing what we always have been doing. Pulling the structure down on our head. Going, playing the victim. Going, how did I wind up here? Everybody, we are no doubt afflicted with this disease. Nobody has to be a drug addict or alcoholic, am I correct? You are not responsible for being a drug addict and alcoholic. You are not it is not your fault you have this disease, man. But what is your responsibility or your fault?
Now doing something about it.
Your recovery, 100%. That's why the more you live in the solution, we're worrying here and we're picking apart things and this and we're angry and this is bullshit and that's bullshit. I've only had one meeting with my counselor. Man, guess where you're living?
In the problem.
In the problem. Instead of the solution. And that's being stuck in everlasting ignorance. Ignorance being ignorance, not that you're stupid. Do you understand, Michael? Because no. Remember the other day you said that the word ignorant had a, that's all I meant. I didn't mean him specifically, but he was saying that had, like, the word ignorant always had a negative connotation to it. And it's not ignorant like we'll be stuck in everlasting stupidity.
What you resist persists.
Yeah.
All the other things.
And like I said, like I'm gonna tell you Jay-Z said, what you don't reveal, you cannot heal.
I like mine better than mine.
Well, of course. And that's okay.
I'm just joking.
No, me too. Listen, that's the thing, like, I just want, like, we need to heal, man. We need to heal. We didn't wind up in here because we were singing too loud in church, or because we just drank a little bit for a little bit, you know what I mean? Just drank a little too much for a little bit of time. This thing has been, I mean, people ask me all the time, like, Mike, when did you start doing drugs? I said, I cannot remember. I think it was around 17, but I've been a drug addict since the age of 5. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or an alcoholic. I've been an alcoholic since the age of 5.
I've been an alcoholic since the age of 5. I just didn't have access to it.
Yes, exactly. I was in constant fear and anxiety and ego and sense of entitlement and no coping skills and, you know, running and self-destructive in a way that, like, you know, self-destructive in a way that would guarantee to bring anybody misery. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what we do. We want to be happy. Life's not about being happy, although it is. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, we want to be happy all the time. We don't ever want to come down. You know what I mean? Like, anybody in here know what it's like when they start drinking or getting high? What's the biggest fear then, Reed?
Coming down and
Being sober.
Running out, right? Running out, not having enough, being found out. That's our biggest fears. I mean, life, you know, everything that's ever happened, anything that you've ever been through, it didn't happen to you, although some stuff happened to you, it happened for you if you look at it the right way. All right, guys, go.
Yeah.
Thank you.